All right. I think we'll go ahead and get things kicked off. That way, hopefully we can keep everybody as close to the time frame that we promised. If I could just start with a brief thought of gratitude for our board and all of our members who continue to make these programs possible. I think all of us probably had a business plan at the beginning of the year. Certainly the Central Ohio FPA had a plan, and that plan has had multiple 2.0, 3.0 adjustments as we have been able to shuffle presenters and hopefully continue to provide the same high quality CE that you have come to expect. We appreciate your continued commitment. I am more than blown away that we have 94 people signed up today for a Zoom meeting at a date that was not even our original date. And so I don't think you'll be disappointed in the quality of our speaker today and the materials that she has to offer. The other point I would like to mention is for those of you who are more seasoned in the business, this is certainly a wonderful opportunity to mentor younger advisors and next-gen advisors who have not experienced conditions quite like this. I don't know that any of us have, but for those of you that are taking time to mentor and hold the hands not only of our clients but of younger advisors, this is certainly a unique and wonderful opportunity for them. I would encourage any younger advisor who is interested in participating in any of our next gen programs. We continue to have great interest for those led by our board member, Maddie Napier. I really think they would benefit from continued participation. Certainly these are not conditions like any others that we've experienced, both to serve clients, learn, and develop new business opportunities. With that, I'll kick things off with our featured sponsor this month. Our featured sponsor this month is TD Ameritrade, and leading that will be Angela Flowers, who is the Vice President of Institutional Sales.
Thank you, Jim. It's so good to be here with everyone. We appreciate FPA and love supporting you all. Nice to see everyone virtually. We do miss you and can't wait to get back out in the field to see your smiling faces. Hope everyone is doing well. Super excited today to have with me a managing director at TD. It's Vanessa Olagino. She heads up our Business Performance Solutions group, and she is here to tell you about a really exciting service that we launched last week. With that, Vanessa.
All right, thanks, Angela. Let me just get my slide here for you all. Okay, can we see the slides?
Yep.
Okay, great. So as Angela said, my name is Vanessa Olagino. I run our Business Performance Solutions group, which is practice management at TD Ameritrade. So my group focuses on everything to help you grow your business, become more efficient, manage talent, all the things that you need to really manage and grow the business over the long term. Our latest offering we're really excited about, we launched it last Monday, is called RIA Connect. And it's really focused on helping you to create connections that can help move your business forward. So just a little bit of background here. I mean, what we know is that succession planning continues to be a challenge for sole proprietors. For those of you who may be a sole proprietor at the beginning of this particular global pandemic, you may have been a little bit worried about the vulnerability if you don't have a contingency plan in place, if you don't have a successor for your business. That's one of the things that we've continued to talk to advisors about during this time period. We also know that RIAs are actually driving the majority of M&A activity. There's been an increase of 60% in 2019. We're in the process of gathering the numbers for the first half of 2020, and surprisingly, it doesn't look like it has slowed down very much at all. I'll just give you that little bit of a teaser. And we also know that the hunt for high-performing, diverse talent is getting tougher. Advisors tell us that one of their top 2 challenges is finding good people. So as we thought about how we could help, we really thought about what we need is a way to connect people. We needed a digital matching platform. And so our mission was to create a safe, secure virtual community that could facilitate these introductions and connections between firms, right? So firms who may have, like philosophies and could benefit from getting to know each other, and potentially further on down the line for merger and acquisition, partnering, whatever it may be. And also to connect firms with next generation talent, because that is also one of the things that firms tell us that they're struggling with on a regular basis. And so RIA Connect for advisors, there's two main audiences here. One is advisors and one is next gen talent. So on the advisory side, here's what you can do. You can create a matching platform. You can view and rate your matches. So whatever you're trying to match on, there are a whole list of different objectives. So if you're looking to find a successor, if you're looking for a merger partner, if you're looking to acquire, if you're looking to hire next gen talent, if you're looking for contingency planning, you choose what your objectives are, and we will match you with the other people within the RIA Connect community. And what happens is it kind of works like LinkedIn. You can send a message or an indication of interest, and they can respond if they're interested. It's completely anonymous until you choose to reveal your identity. So it takes that pressure off, which I think is really important as well. And one of the other things that we're doing is we're not just providing the platform for you to connect with people based on your objectives. We're also going to be creating and having access to educational resources, right? Because there are a lot of questions that come up for someone who has not gone through a process before. So if you have not gone through succession planning exercise before, what are the ins and outs of that? If you have not gone through a merger or acquisition, what are the ins and outs of that? So we want to make sure that we're supplying education as well as creating the opportunity for you to meet other firms for various purposes. For Next Gen Talent, we are inviting graduates of financial planning programs. We're talking to program directors at universities, career changers, people who have not joined the industry yet but are looking to join the industry. They can come in and create a Next Gen profile, and they can let us know what they're looking for in terms of a full-time, a part-time position, an internship. They also have the ability to tell their story. So they can tell you a little bit about themselves and their experience. And what happens is if they get matched, the advisor gets a list of matches if they're looking for someone for Next Gen Talent, and they then can send a note and say, hey, I got your information, I'm interested in learning more, and you can begin a conversation that way. So really two different audiences. We're really excited about the traction we've gotten in that first week, both on the advisory side and the Next Gen Talent side. And one of the things I think really differentiates this is not a matching platform just to generate deals between buyers and sellers. I think that ultimately that may be something that happens with some of the people engaging in the community, but it's really about making connections for you based on your objectives, whatever they may be, that hopefully lead to bigger and better things for your firm and for those that you're looking to collaborate with. Of course, TD Ameritrade offers support for all of these different objectives that you may have, and we're always willing to help and begin conversations. So if you are with TD Ameritrade already, you can begin to request access to RIA Connect if you haven't already through VAO 1. And if you're not with TD Ameritrade but would like to have a conversation and learn more, you can reach out to Angela, and you can also visit our website. So with that, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Vanessa. I would remind our members, I've had the opportunity to participate in some broader FPA meetings, and our chapter is very fortunate, dare I say blessed, to have the resources that we have at some level because of the leaders who went before me stashed away cash, a little bit like squirrels with acorns. Part of the reason we are able to continue to offer these is the support of our sponsors. And so if you have any follow-up activity at all that you think TD Ameritrade would be appropriate, please reach out to them. They are a meaningful sponsor of our activities. And without them and their other sponsors, we candidly could not offer the quality of programming that we're able to offer you today. With that, I'll turn it back to Debbie Lee for a few housekeeping items.
Good morning, everybody. I miss you so much. I just want to tell you, so first of all, if you have questions for the speaker, let's put them in the chat so that maybe then toward the end, or if it seems appropriate to the speaker, I'll leave it up to her. She can answer how she'd like, but then you won't forget them. We'll stay muted through the presentation. So we applied for our insurance credits. They are currently pending. So hopefully we'll get them. The subject matter qualifies for sure. Sorry, I had to admit another person in. But in order to get the credits, if we get the credits, if you have an insurance license, make sure you answer the 3 poll questions that pop up. I can't make any exceptions. You absolutely have to answer those questions. So they're going to come up randomly. No one's going to say that they're up. They'll pop up. If you don't have an insurance license, answer the poll questions. And I'll tell you why. We've created them to gather some information about our symposium and programming. So it's a good way to have your voice heard. Answer them. It doesn't matter if you don't get insurance credit, but definitely if you do. Make your voice heard. And I think that is all I have for now. We're looking forward to another meeting July 14th for CE. So be sure to register. We have limited space, so I'm going to kind of see where we land with everyone on this. And hopefully not have too many no-shows, but it seems to be in line with our regular meeting, so I'll know. All right, Jim, back to you. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce not only a professional colleague, but longtime friend, and many of you know her, Heather Dulle. I won't go through Heather's entire list of professional accomplishments, largely because it would take the bulk of her presentation time. Amongst Heather's many deep subject matter expert credentials would be she is a National Social Security Advisor, which will be the majority of her topic today. I will warn you, for those of you who have not had the opportunity to work with Heather in the past, listen fast because she talks fast. So hold on, expect probably what most people could cover in 90 minutes. Heather will probably get through in 45. With that, it's my pleasure to kick things off with Heather Dulle.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 1-hour session of Social Security. I am so excited to be here, and I thank Jim for having me here. It has been really a big deal for me to know Social Security over these years. I started my career really traveling around the state of Ohio with what they call the Social Security specialist from Social Security. And there's some great people that do that. That's a public affairs specialist at the office. And one of the days that I actually was in a town in Ohio that basically this public affairs specialist said he would meet me there, and he never showed up. About an hour later, he finally showed up. And at that point, I promised myself that I would do it myself going forward, so I would never be in that position again. So with that, we're going to talk a little about Social Security going forward. I look at the bigger picture. So why is Social Security important? 96% of Americans are entitled to benefits. Benefits can be more substantial than you think. And when you look at the benefits themselves, they are. When you look at why Social Security is important, we call it the $1 million asset. And the reason why we call it the $1 million asset is because right now the high check of $3,011, if that client was married, then that spouse would be able to be eligible to about $1,500, totaling about $4,600, $4,500 a month. If you divide that, you basically take that into $1 million, you're talking about a 5.4% yield. That's why it's close to $1 million asset. So we do think it's very substantial. A lot of people look at their house, their 401k as one of their largest assets. For most of our clients, Social Security will be their largest asset. So it is very important going forward. So when we look at the agenda of what I'll be covering today, I'll be covering Social Security then and now, kind of looking at the history, kind of going back and forth. I'll tell you a couple of updates of what's going on today. Social Security benefits, how your benefits are calculated, when to file is actually the number one question they get on the 800 line is when to file. Filing strategies, spousal benefits, survivor benefits, divorce benefits, and special situations. The special situations are my windfall people and my government pension offset. So I would pay special attention to that because I've noticed a lot of clients will hold you accountable to understanding how that works. And if you don't know how that works, they leave. So I'll talk about that. Taxes, I'll just breeze over that. Basically, a lot of you have Social Security taxation software that you can go to, but we'll talk about that. And then I'll conclude by kind of giving you resources right now, because during COVID, it's really important to understand where to go. And I'll tell you about a personal situation on where we had to go. How long does it take to be on the 800 number? But there's also local numbers going out there right now that I'll share with you as well. So let's talk about the system. Great system. It started in 1935. That's actually when it was built, but the first check went out in 1937. So they claim both dates. Back in 1935, they paid only the retired workers. And what does that mean? They paid only the people that put into the system. There were actually no spousal benefits back then. There were no divorce benefits. There was no widow benefits. It was only the retired workers they paid back then. More people paying in than drawing out. It was a great plan. They actually paid people at 65. So 65 was the original age when they paid, but life expectancy was 63. It was a great plan. They just died before they got it. So, but now today, not as good as the system is today, because you've got now more people living longer. Baby boomers did not have enough children. Parents of baby boomers are living longer. Average life expectancy of a 65-year-old, as you all know, is 85. Living at 65, 33% of the people will live to 90 and 15% will live to be 95. This is nothing new that we haven't heard. But we are paying people out at 62 now. So that's a little bit of a difference. What's interesting here, come in August, Social Security will be 85 years old. So for 85 years, you guys see the newspapers, you see the articles, you see the webs of how talking about Social Security is bankrupt as well as broke, but it will celebrate its 85th year this year. So can retirees depend on it? So that's the one thing that I think that your clients do worry about, is they hear the news, they hear the rumblings, is can it depend on it? Right now, an estimated 173 million workers are covered. More than 65 million Americans receive benefits. Currently, there's about 46.6 million older Americans. By 2033, the number will increase to more than 77 million. Currently, there's 2.8 workers for each Social Security beneficiary. By 2037, there will be 2.1 workers for each beneficiary. Under current assumptions, now this is the most important bullet point on this program. Under current assumptions, the program will only be able to pay full benefits until 2034. Now, when this seminar, as you can imagine, marketing department, they get this out at the end of the year. And they have to put a line in the sand. But in reality, there are two different reports in Social Security that go out that is super important. The first one that comes out in every year around the end of April to early May, that is the Social Security Trustee Fund Report. The Social Security Trustee Fund Report just confirmed that this now is 2035. So unfortunately, marketing and the report, they can't make that meet. They don't get that out quick enough for May. So I just wanted to let you know that that was confirmed 2035. That is made public. So that Social Security Trustee Fund Report does go out this year. It came out a little bit earlier, but usually around early May, but it did confirm 2035. The second report that goes out, which is October, which is going to be coming up here shortly, right before open enrollment for Medicare, is called the fact sheet, or what we call the COLA report. And the COLA report has a little bit different stats. What it will do is it'll tell you, as advisors, what will the client's pay raise be for the following year. So that's another report. So 2 reports. So you have your trustee fund report and you have your COLA report. The COLA report has a lot more digits on it, meaning it has a lot more numbers on it. And you will see it will look like this. If you all have not received that, let Jim know and I'll send that out to you. But it will told you what the pay raise was for this year, which this year it was 0.6%. So where does Social Security fit in the retirement picture? As you can just look at the pie chart here, it was never meant to be the end all to end all. It was meant to be a portion of the of someone's retirement income plan. So if you look at all of our retirees out there, a majority of their income coming in during retirement, about 1/3 come from Social Security. So 1/3 of the people get Social Security as their main resource. You'll see number 2 is 401k. Number 3 is personal savings. Number 4 is pensions. You'll notice that sliver is smaller and it's getting smaller. So you'll pretty soon that IRAs, annuity, and inheritance will become bigger. You know, as you'll see, annuities will be your personal pension. That'll float up more a little bit to the top, and 401ks will be a bigger part of the plan. So how much can it really be? Right now it's $3,011 is the high check if you are at FRA, full retirement age this year. So if you're at full retirement age this year, $3,011, that's equivalent to a $36,000 a year benefit, or equivalent to what we call a $720,000 asset. As I mentioned earlier, a spouse is eligible to collect half of that $3,011, which is equivalent to $1 million asset. How much can the benefits really be? As we said, they are significant. They do adjust for inflation. So as I slightly mentioned, they got an inflation pay raise, 1.6% this year. Remember, that's based off of the labor index, or what we call the CPIW, which is the wage index. And when you look at that inflation pay raise, it's been going on since 1971. They don't always have to get it based on if people at their jobs are getting pay raises or not. So I think that is a myth with consumers. They think it's based off of the food or the gas, and in reality, it's based off people at their jobs are getting pay raises. So we got a 1.6% pay raise this year, but they have given zeros before. So keep that in mind. They don't have to give a pay raise. It does last for the retiree's lifetime. It can also last for the spouse's lifetime as well. So how do we become vested? How do we become vested? So we become vested if we basically look at being vested by, I always say we become vested 2 ways. One, we become vested by basically on our own. So when you look at our own, how do we become vested? We become vested by becoming and having 40 credits of our own. So 40 credits or 10 years of work. So you also can be vested by marrying someone. So if you're eligible as spousal benefits or ex-spousal benefits or widow benefits. But most of the time people are becoming vested by getting 40 credits or 10 years of work. They used to call them quarters. They now call them credits. So 40 credits is equivalent to 10 years of work. You get 4 credits per year, i.e. that's where you get 10 years of work. You take the high 35 years of earnings. So the high 35 years of earnings. I think that's the other myth I think clients get mixed up on. They kind of mix pensions to Social Security, and they take your high 5 or last 10. It is your high 35 years of earnings. What they will do is they will monthly average that. What they will take those high 35, they average those earnings by looking back at your earnings, and they will bring up your earnings in today's dollars. So for example, in 1968, if you made $4,000, that's equivalent to about $51,000 today. So they do average those earnings up through the age of 59, and then they will do is they will divide that by 420. 420 is the number of months in 35 years. That's how they get you down to a monthly number. So how right now paper statements are only mailed to those age 60 plus, we do encourage people to go onto their My Social Security account. I know a lot of advisors like to go onto the estimator. I'm a big believer in creating the account. I think that you want to make sure that it's very accurate, that they've created their My Social Security account, because once they've created it, now they can go on to the Social Security website and enroll in Social Security without going into the office. So pretty soon, I do think the statements will become a thing of the past, because I think that millennials will be enrolling on Social Security on their iPhone. So I would get used to getting people to go onto the My Social Security account and create a password and use their ID. When can clients start receiving benefits? Obvious reasons: they can start at 62. If they start at 62, it will be reduced. So their benefit will be reduced. If they go ahead and wait till full retirement age, so for those who, we'll go to the next slide here in a little bit, but full retirement age is the year in which you can receive your full benefits. So your full benefits. It's between the ages of 65 and 67 right now is the full retirement age. But if you wait until 70, then you will get an increased benefit. So we'll talk more about the math behind Social Security here in a minute. But if you look at the full retirement age for everyone here, for your clients, if they're born after 1960, it's 67. If it's between 1943 and 1954, it's 66. If you do get a client that comes in that's already been on Social Security for years and they were born before 43, it is 65. So just keep that in mind. But between 55 and 59, it is a mixture of every year. It goes up by 2 months. I call in the business, the full retirement age is I call it the promised land. So I call it the promised land for a couple of different reasons. The promised land is basically, I use it for 4 different reasons. One, I think that your full retirement age, the reason we call it the promised land, this is 100% of what you're able to get. So it's 100% of what is owed to you, 1. 2 is also, you're going to see that it is at full retirement age, that if you are married and you want to collect spousal benefits, then you are eligible to get 50% of your spouse's record if you are at full retirement age. So that's number 2. If you are a widow and you're eligible to get 100% of your deceased record, you are going to get 100% at full retirement age, which is 3. And then at 4, you're eligible to work and collect Social Security. You can work as much as you want at your promised land, or what we call full retirement age. So let's talk about the age and the benefits. So at 62, you will get a lower monthly premium. So a lower monthly premium at 62, it is permanent. So once you do take 62, it is a permanent. You have a one-time do-over, which was recently closed to 12 months after your first check. So if you decide to do it over, you'd have to pay it back. But that's one time, 12 months after your first check. But most of the time that people take it at 62, past a year, it is a permanent reduction. So that reduction is between 25 to 30%, depending on when your full retirement age is. So if your full retirement age is 1967 or after 1960, then you are reduced by 30%. If you're born between 1943 and 1954, you are reduced by 25%. Your full retirement age, you get your full benefit, and there you see it. You'll get a higher benefit at age 70, and we'll see an example here. So you will get an additional $199,000 of income over 30 years. And it's the slide's a little bit blurry, but I'm going to tell you basically what it means. At 62, you're going to see that it's $725 for someone's FRA at 66 and 6 months. You're going to get a decrease of about 27.5% if you take it early. If you wait until 70, you'll get about a 27.5% increase. Remember, the math behind it is between 62 and 66, or 66.5, is a 6.25% increase. Between 66 and 70, it's an 8% increase. But remember, for someone who is FRA after 1960, you only get 3 8% of 24% because of their FRA. So every year matters in Social Security, every month matters, so keep that in mind. I do think that the break-even age here is you're going to find between 62 and 66 is 74, and the break-even age between 66 and 70 is 79. Those break-even ages have nothing to do with work. They have nothing to do with investing the money. It is purely just the checks against each other's checks. So when does filing early make sense? So there's a different scenarios for making it sense. Obviously, if health issues are going to preclude you from taking it early. Financial issues, so if somebody wants to go ahead and take it early, or they're retiring and they have to make sure that taking Social Security early makes sense. I always say, if you needed to eat, take it. So if you needed to eat, take it. And I think that's a wonderful statement for a client to understand. You know, if I need it as part of the plan to eat, then I'll take it. Single income households, lower wage earners, that makes sense for them, because if they are making a lower wage and Social Security would be about 80% of what they were making before, it made sense for them to take it early. And then school-age children at home, for people that are taking care of children under the age of 18 or 19 still in high school, whether it be adopted children, biological, or step. So those three things, if they're taking care of children, biological, step, or adopted, it makes sense to take it early, because then the child would get the benefit. So we do have a drug epidemic in this country. So we do see there was an actual article written where there are a lot of grandparents taking care of grandchildren right now. And that is a very wonderful thing to do. But if they want Social Security, they need to adopt those grandchildren. Just being power of attorney is not good enough. There are 3 types of spousal benefits that are in Social Security to make your clients' checks bigger. Basic spousal benefits, widow and widower benefits, and divorce benefits. These are all 3 benefits to make your check bigger. We're going to go over each one. Basic spousal benefits. What was the premise of basic spousal benefits? Very simple. It was for stay-at-home parents. Originally, it was for stay-at-home moms, and now we have the transition of stay-at-home dads. So it was for them because they were taking care of children at home. It is there for them to at least bring their benefit up to 50% of their living spouse's benefit. A couple of key things that I want you to note about spousal benefits. Number 1, if you're wanting to collect off of a spouse, if you want the full 50%, then you have to be at FRA. You have to be at full retirement age. So if I want to collect a 50% off of my husband, I need to be at FRA. I have to be at my FRA. He does not have to be at FRA. I have to be at FRA. So that's number 1. Number 2, the other thing is that, like I said, he does not have to be at FRA. If I'm at FRA, I will receive 50% of my spouse's FRA. So in Social Security, FRA is king. So I will get 50% of his FRA. Let me give you an example. Let's say my benefit is $800. So my own benefit. So remember, they're going to take the greater of 50% of my spouse's living spouse's benefit FRA, or my own, whichever is greater. So you're going to get the greater of the two. So if my benefit is $800, then I'm going to get my own, or 50% of my living spouse's FRA. But I have to be at FRA to get 50%. If I am not at FRA, let's say I'm 62, then I'll only get 35%. So keep that in mind. So it matters how old the spouse is when they're going into collecting. So let's say, for example, my husband, his benefit is $2,500, and that's his full benefit. Let's say he waited until FRA, so that's his full benefit, and that's important. So then I'm going to get $800, or 50% of his full benefit of $2,500, I would be eligible to get $1,250 instead of the $800. Let's do a second scenario. Let's say he took his benefit at 62 and he's only getting $2,000. Well, his full benefit's $2,500. So then I still get $1,250, because it doesn't matter to me that he took his early. As long as I'm at full benefit, then I'll get 50% of his full benefit. So a couple other key things to note: to file for spousal benefit, the spouse must also file. So there has to be a record there in order for me to file off of him. He's got to file. Filing for spousal benefits early will reduce my benefit. Like I said, if I go in at 62, I do not get 50%. I get 35%. It's a sliding scale. 35% at 62. It's like 37.5 at 63. It's a sliding scale up. For those who want to know the percentage, let me know. I'd be more than happy to give that to you. The percentage of reduction depends on how early the benefit is taken. So it does depend on how early the benefit is taken. So widow and widower benefits. So remember, when you have a client where the spouse passes away, it matters if they've taken it already. So that does matter. Two, also widower benefits. It matters how early the widow is or widower when they walk into Social Security. It matters how old they are. So as you can see, this theme that I'm coming across, it matters how old these people are. Widows and widowers receive full benefits at their full retirement age. So again, FRA and Social Security is king. It matters that they get to full retirement age, they'll get the full benefit that is owed to them. So let's take an example. Husband's getting $2,000, the wife's getting $1,000. He dies. She now gets $2,000, but she loses the $1,000. So you get the greater of the two and you lose the lesser of the two. Very important in planning. So a lot of the good softwares out there, whether it be Money Guide Pro, eMoney, or your personal software out there, your proprietary software, they'll usually do that calculation for you. But I think it's really important that you know that off your top of your head, that they're going to get the greater of the two and lose the lesser of the two. But remember, the widow and widower has to be at full retirement age to get the greater of the two. It has to be full retirement age, because if they can collect benefits as early as 60. So remember, retirement benefits are 62. Widow and widower benefits are 60. So if they get it at 60, they can, no problem. But if you'll see at this third bullet point, if they take it at 60, the benefit is reduced by 30%. It is a major haircut if they take it at 60. And can remember, when you look at taking it early at 60, a lot of people that when they pass away and they go down to the funeral home, it just seems like it's an automatic transition. They go right to Social Security. But if they don't know what they're doing because they're in that widow fog or that widower fog, that they go down to Social Security, they immediately think they should file. But if they're under the age of, if they're under and full retirement age, they are going to get reduced. The other thing to keep in mind that that widows and widowers, if they're under full retirement age, they will receive a working limit. So a working limit. So there is a working limit. So just because they lost their spouse doesn't mean that we're not going to comply with that working limit. So I'll give you an example. She lost her husband. She immediately goes down to Social Security. She's 62. She wants to collect his widow benefits or her widow benefits. They will ask her, how much do you make? Do you work? Because if you have to make under $18,240. So widows and widowers have to comply with that working limit. So just keep that in mind. Widows and widowers can do what we call file and restrict. Widows and widowers can collect survivor benefits while letting their own benefit cook. So that's very important. So back in 2016, when we got rid of file and suspend, file and restrict was grandfathered for people born on or before January 1, 1954. That is the strategy. That's the only strategy that's still around. Again, key in strategies, file and restrict is the only strategy that is still around. You have to be born on or before January 1, 1954. So when you get back to your offices, make sure your software says on January 1, 1954. In Social Security, January 1 or any first of the month, it actually is the prior month. So that's why that is. But President Obama, when he got rid of file and suspend and grandfathered in file and restrict, he let go of widows and widowers, meaning that he let them do file and restrict, which basically means that person can collect their survivor benefit by letting their own cook, getting that 8% per year, which is key. Benefits for the divorce. So the marriage has to at least last 10 years. So I'm glad that we got to this part. The myth of clients think that in order to get spousal benefits or widower benefits or divorce benefits, everybody's going to be married 10 years. That is not true. If you want to get spousal benefits, you just have to be married 1 year. If you want to get widow and widower benefits, you have to be married for 9 months. If you want to be divorce benefits, it's 10 years. So every one of those benefits have different marriage requirements. Every one of those benefits have different marriage requirements. The divorce has to be lasting 2 years. The former spouse is then entitled to benefits as long as she is unmarried or he is unmarried. The claiming ex-spouse has to at least be 62. And the claiming ex-spouse cannot qualify for a higher benefit on their own record. So very similar to spousal benefits. It's almost like you're still married to that person because a ex-spouse gets 50% just like a spouse does. The only difference between divorce benefits and spousal benefits is if I'm married and I want to collect off my husband, he has to file. If I want to collect divorce benefits off my ex-husband, then he doesn't have to file. As long as he's 62, I'm eligible for his record. So a couple key things in divorce. You used to have to wait for your ex to file, but remember, divorce is a very bitter thing. So therefore, a lot of ex-spouses were not filing for their record just to get back at their ex. So they closed that loophole. Now, as long as that ex is 62 and they are unmarried, they can claim off their ex-spouse regardless if they file for Social Security or not. One of the things that I want you to know about divorce is I see a lot of ex-widows and ex-widower benefits who are not claiming. So keep that in mind. So let me give you an example. I actually was up in Mansfield, Ohio, doing a seminar, and I got to this slide here. And the woman in the front row, she just seemed so bewildered that when looking at this slide, she raised her hand and she says, I was married to my husband for probably 20 years. I divorced him about 13 years ago, and he died 12 years ago. So he's been deceased for 12 years. I said, okay. And she says, I never remarried. And I said, okay. I said, how much is your record right now? And she says, well, it's a little over $1,000. And I said, do you think your ex-spouse has a much bigger record than yours? And she says, yes, I think it's probably over $2,000. And I said, I want you to leave this seminar right now, and I want you to go to Social Security, because she is eligible for ex-widow benefits. And the reason why she thought she wasn't eligible is because her ex-husband remarried. Just because he remarried does not mean that you are not eligible for ex-widow benefits. You are. You would get his full benefit. Just because he remarried does not mean that you're not eligible. As long as you're unmarried, you're eligible to ex-widow or ex-widower benefits. See, the key behind divorce benefits is there is no family maximum. And what that means is that you could have multiple people filing off your record. And it's not counted in the family maximum. So I don't want your, divorce clients to be combing the obits or anything, but I do think it's really important for them to understand that they are eligible for ex-widow and ex-widower benefits. So let's talk about my favorite subject of windfall elimination and government pension offset. So this applies to teachers in the state of Ohio and Kentucky, so obviously for our border state as well. It applies for state employees, fire and police. So why does this apply? It applies because of the 1983 rules that went into effect that basically says, if you don't put into Social Security and you're putting into another pension plan, then we're going to reduce you. It's really that simple. There are two benefits that apply to this. Now, why are there two? There are two because windfall elimination applies to the worker. So if you are working under Social Security at some point, whether it just be 10 years, and you're getting a check on your own, that's where windfall elimination applies. Government pension offset should really be renamed as spousal pension offset. It should really be renamed as spousal pension offset. All that government pension offset applies to is if you're trying to apply off of a spouse or a deceased spouse. So I don't want you to commingle the two. That's where a lot of people, I think, kind of fail, is they commingle the two. Windfall is on your own record. Government pension offset if you're trying to apply off a spouse. Let's go over windfall. Windfall is if I have worked for 15 years under Social Security, whether it be during college or whatever, but then I became a teacher and I have STRS. So I've got both. I have both records on my own. I am the worker. So if I've got both, the most they can reduce my Social Security by is $480. That is the maximum reduction for 2020, $480. But if I have 30 years under Social Security, no reduction is taken. So you eliminate windfall elimination and government pension offset. So to Social Security's eyes, 30 years is considered vested. Government pension offset is if I'm trying to apply off of my spouse. If I'm trying to apply off of my spouse, then what they'll do is they'll take 2/3 of my STRS and apply it to his half, or if he's deceased, they'll apply it to his all. So that's my quick version. Now I'm going back to windfall. A couple key things to know about windfall. 480 is the max, but remember, they're not going to reduce somebody by $480 if their check is $400. Okay, so if they've only worked under Social Security for 10 years and their check is $400, they're not going to take away the whole $400. So there's actually a calculation under $926 of earnings at Social Security, they multiply that by 0.445. So that $400 check, you would multiply that by 0.445. So $400 times 0.445, that means that they would get about $178 from Social Security. So it's never going to totally wipe out the Social Security, but if the earnings are above 926, they will take out the max 480. Now, there's also another thing where if your earnings are 21 years to 30 years of earnings, then there's a declining scale of how much they're actually going to reduce from your check. Okay, it won't be 480. It's a declining scale. You can find that on ssa.gov. There's a web PDF that'll show you all of the earnings. If you can't find it, email me. I'll get it to you. But there's more to web, but I'm just giving you kind of the 10,000 feet. Is that 480 is the max. So if you just want to take that stance and just deduct 480 from everybody that's a teacher, state, fire, and police, you can do that. But I want you to know that they're never going to reduce their full Social Security check. So it's never going to be taken away. The government pension offset is where I get people that are totally upset about it. You get a teacher, has been a teacher her whole life. She's been on STRS, but she's got this hardworking husband he's been in Social Security for 40 years. He's getting the full benefit of $2,500. Her STRS is $4 or $5 grand. She is thoroughly upset because when he passes, she gets nothing. Can't kill the messenger. So just FYI, that will take away all of his benefit. And yes, that is a sad thing, but it is what it is. When you look at working while receiving benefits, as we talked a little bit about before when we were talking about widower benefits, before your full retirement age, remember, they're only crimping your work prior to full retirement age. Once you reach full retirement age, remember what I said about it being the promised land. Once you reach the promised land, you can make $1 million a year. So, but before retirement age, you're looking at that it's going to be reduced. So before full retirement age, your 2020 earnings limit is $18,240. So keep that in mind. $18,240 is your working limit. If you are in the year of your full retirement age, it goes up to $48,600 a year. So you've got really 3 levels of working. So 3 levels of working. So you have your before full retirement age is $18,240. The year you're in your full retirement age, so let's say my birthday's in September, and my full retirement age is in that year, then it'll be 48,000, and you'll see 48,000. Actually, the number is 48,600. Once I reach my full retirement age, I can make $1 million a year. So it's 3 levels. Okay. If I make over that $18,240 under full retirement age, they'll take $1 for every $2 you earn above the limit. So what can this information do for you? Obviously, it teaches clients how to identify and prepare for key retirement decisions. It can learn how to guide clients through these key decisions, educate clients about their options, enhance client relationships, and help you position you as that premier retirement planning resource. So the next several slides, it says concepts, tax concepts, which you want to contact a CPA to learn more about Social Security and taxes. So keep in mind when I'm giving this to the consumer, I want them to understand that their Social Security could be taxed. Okay, it could be taxed. Most of you have phenomenal software at your fingertips to plug in to see what your clients will be taxed in Social Security. So what they'll do is they'll take that provisional income, all of your income from wages, your pensions, your investments, any non-reportable income, meaning tax-free bonds, and any other exclusions to income, and half of your Social Security benefits. So I think of it like a big pot of chili. You're throwing this in there and then stirring it up, and then comes up with this calculation. So if that number comes up to $32,000 or less, then 0 is a taxable amount. You have $32,000 to $44,000. So up to 50% could be taxed. And then greater than $44,000 up to 85% could be taxed. Now, with that said, these calculations have not changed since Bill Clinton was in office. And what you're going to find is one of the things I did not mention about the trust fund. Before coronavirus came in, there was actually a bill that was introduced into Congress called Social Security 2100. Google it. When you Google it, put Social Security 2100. After that, put 2019. It'll tell you all about this Connecticut congressman who's introduced the bill. The reason why I recommend it is because I want you to look at it, because it's the furthest a bill has gone in Congress to talk about just fixing Social Security and making it a little bit more profitable. And one thing in the bill, there's a lot of things in the bill. One of the things in the bill is making this calculation obviously larger. So it's gonna be a little bit more of a bigger earning, so less people are taxed. Right now, my understanding is that 30% of the people are taxed on Social Security. So about 30% of the people are taxed. So where to file for benefits? So let's talk about that. So normal circumstances, you can go in person. If you go in person and the offices are open, I always say the Social Security offices, you know, I make a joke of it that most of the offices are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. But those people are wonderful people. They are awesome people. They will help your clients. But keep in mind, the reason we say that is because they're not there to give advice. They're not there to give you strategies. That is not their job. Their job is to tell you what is the check on the day that you ask them, and that is their job. So that's what we mean. So I do think for your clients, you need to let them know the Social Security office is just there to validate what you already know. That's the point. It's there to just give you validation of what you already know. So if I'm going into the Social Security office and I think that my check should be $1,900, I'm hoping at the other end she's saying $1,900, that I'm there to validate. But right now, in the wake of COVID-19, their Social Security offices are closed. They will lead you to an 800 number. Instead of giving the 800 number to your clients, what I would do is I would go on ssa.gov, and there is a branch locator. Put in your zip code, put in the client zip code, give them the phone number to the local office. My nephew's mom passed away. I was helping him file for disabled child benefits. At the time, I didn't think I could basically call the Cincinnati office because I'm in Cincinnati. I called the 800 number. I waited on an hour line to get somebody who gave me the Cincinnati office, which, by the way, I already had it, but I thought I would have to call the main number. Bottom line is the Cincinnati office, it was probably maybe a 10-minute wait, 20-minute wait, where the 800 was about an hour wait. So you got to remember, they're funneling everyone to that main 800 number, but do yourself a favor, do your client a favor by going onto the branch locator and figuring out what is that number for your local office. So with that said, it is exactly almost 10 o'clock. At this point in time, Jim, do we need to open this for questions, or do I need to look at the chat?
I think, and Heather, you have another 10 minutes or so, just
Okay.
because we had that beginning part. If you have anything to add, you did such a great job. Okay.
Sure.
And there was at least a couple questions in the chat. You may have, and there comes one now.
I
so
see.
You can
Yeah, I see them now. Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and start answering those for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Debbie asked me how continuing to pay into Social Security, assuming you start taking a full retirement age, affects your benefit. Great question. So a lot of people will start working while they're getting Social Security after FRA. And so if the work that they're putting in is one of their high 35, so if it's one of their high 35, or maybe it'll replace a 0. If it replaces a 0, then their check will go up the following year. If for some reason they have all 35 years in and it does not, then it won't affect it. Because if you're already at your high and you've already hit that high $3,011, then it will not affect it. But if it does help with one of those zeros, then it will change your check the following year. So I have another question. I had a question once I couldn't find an answer to. Couple married, then divorced, then remarried each other, then divorced again. Total marriage time was over 10 years over the two marriages, but neither marriage lasted 10 years. Can they add the two terms together to get 10? No, they cannot. So it has to be a full length of 10 years of the one-time sitting of a marriage. Good question. Next question I have is Heather, client getting survivor benefit of 3,300 STRS. Great question. I love this question. So getting a survivor benefit as a 3,300 STRS. So meaning that the person getting the benefit did not put into Social Security, but getting their own PERS of $100 a month. So, and is she entitled to get the $1,000 a month Social Security benefit she is getting? So the $1,000 PERS, so remember, when someone passes away that is getting windfall elimination or government pension offset. So if somebody passes away and is getting WEP or due to get GPO, that dies with them. So she's getting that as a survivor STRS, so we don't have to worry about the 3,300. What we do have to worry about is her PERS. So remember that $1,000 a month, really, that all that's going to do is it's probably going to drop down her Social Security. But if she's got $1,000 a month, then she will not get. She's probably got more earnings there. But there's a rule in Social Security that if they take, it's the greater of 50% of her pension that's going to be reduced from her Social Security. So she's probably going to be reduced only $50. So her Social Security will be reduced by only $50, taking off that $1,000. But that $3,300 from her husband as a deceased, or her, then that does not count because she received that as a survivor benefit, and that's a great question. So I'm going to go over a couple of slides here, since I do have a couple more minutes, of things that I normally would go over to make sure that we are covering all bases. So when we look at the full retirement age versus, the 70. So I want you to know that when people do take it at 62, there's 3 key things that you want to know about people taking it early. And the first is we talked about, which is reduced benefits. So they are going to reduce those benefits down by the reduction. So again, that reduction will be spread out based on your full retirement age. It'll be between 25 to 30% is the reduction. The second thing to keep in mind is that that $18,240 working limit. So $18,240 working limit. The third thing to keep in mind is health insurance. So health insurance is very key because remember, you're going to help your clients bridge that gap between 62 and 65, unless they can get health insurance through their spouse, or they can go out and get it through the exchange. If you all need a contact for that, I have a contact for that as well to help you find insurance under the age of 65. But remember, Medicare does not start until 65 unless you are disabled. And if you're on disability, it doesn't start until 2 years after being on disability. So keep that in mind. Those are the 3 things that I look at age 62. People that wait until 70, remember when they wait until 70, and they're usually doing it for 3 reasons. One is they're doing it obviously to get a bigger check. Remember, that's 8% per year as they wait until 70. They use it to get that bigger check so they can leave that behind. Second reason they do it is usually because they're still working. So they're like, I don't want to go ahead and collect the check until I'm done working. And then keep in mind, the third reason is to make that check bigger, to leave it to the spouse. So a lot of them will do it to leave a legacy behind. So if you remember when we were talking about spousal benefits and we said they get 50% of FRA, the same thing goes in the other direction. So if your spouse does go ahead and let theirs cook until 70, they do not get 50% of the 70 amount. Just like they don't get 50% of the 62 amount. They get 50% of FRA. So 50% of FRA. So keep that in mind, full retirement age. So we have another question that came in. Doesn't the Social Security benefit in the above question depend on her own earnings record? So depend on her own earnings record. So the question above, thank you, Bob, is, I think, according to Bob's in his window there, it says she's entitled to $1,000 a month Social Security benefit she is getting. So I'm assuming that is on her own record. $1,000 a month, if she is basically getting, because she's getting that little PERS amount of $1,000, they're basically, if she's already has 30 years under Social Security, it will not count. $1,000 a month probably does not get her 30 years. I would like to see, Bob, her statement, but I'm pretty sure she's not getting 30 years. At $1,000, I think 30 years would probably be more in the $1,500 range. So that's why I say she'll probably get a $50 reduction. And as Debbie said, the slides will be posted online later today or tomorrow at the latest. Remember to take the post-event survey. So keep in mind, just kind of going over a couple other things that I get questions a lot on from consumers. You know, one of the things I do get a question on is, you can imagine, a lot of consumers will say, well, you know, I heard from my neighbor or my barber that I should take it early at 62. Well, in reality, they're not very good people to give advice to. So there are wonderful calculators, including one of the calculators that we have, that can actually do a Social Security report for your clients that will tell you when to take Social Security. Now, remember, Social Security is not an emotional decision, it is a financial one. Taking it early, you know, I always say if you're married, to hedge your bets. So if you have a husband who is the higher income earner, if he can take his later, and the wife is the younger income earner, she can take hers earlier. So that way you can hedge your bets that way. So that would be also one thing to do there. Taking it early, like I said, it will reduce the benefit, but there also is a working limit. Like I said, if you're already retired. One of the other things I get, especially in Northern Ohio, where there be GM, and what they'll do is they'll get a pension early. Let's say that they retire at 55, they'll get a pension early. And then what happens is at 62, their pension drops. Well, they think in their mind that, oh, I have to file Social Security because my pension dropped. Technically, you don't have to file that. If you can live off that lower pension and let your Social Security cook, you can do that. They're just saying, hey, you're available for Social Security, so we're not going to pay you anymore. So you don't have to file in that case, but if they need it, like I said, if they need it to eat, they should take it. And like I said, the school-age children at home, just to remember, that's adopted, that is biological, and that is stepchildren. The big questions that I get, like I said, on spousal benefits we went over, is the fact that, you know, do I have to be at full retirement age to get the 50%? And you do need to be full retirement age to get the 50%. Like I said, if you are 62, you get 35%. So you do get a ding in the benefit if you do take it early. Widower benefits, we do get a lot of questions on that. If they do die, though, before taking the benefit, when they pass away, whatever age they are when they pass away, is the benefit that the widow would receive, pending on how old she is. So keep that in mind. If a person dies super early, then there's a separate calculation they do at Social Security. They don't take their high 35 because obviously they did not get the availability to go the 35 years. So there is a special there. So I did get a question. Husband, relatively high earner. Wife is STRS, pension of $2,000 a month. At husband's death, does the widow get survivor benefit of husband's benefit? So if the husband is a relatively high earner, so let's say $3,000 to use my math easy. So husband is getting $3,000 in Social Security. So she's eligible to that $3,000. But remember, if she's getting STRS of $2,000, you have to take 2/3. What I do is I take $2,000, multiply that by 66%. That's $1,320. So you take $1,320 minus $3,000, then she's eligible to $1,680. She is eligible to $1,680. So she is eligible to that. So I guess rule of thumb would be is that if the STRS, PRS, or OPERS pension is probably higher than $3,500, probably they're not going to get any benefit at all. But I would always urge you to do the calculation of 2/3 of the pension. Keep in mind, FERS puts into Social Security. Post office puts into Social Security. Teachers right now, there's only probably close to 12 states that don't put in. So some of our border states like Indiana and Michigan, teachers put in. So remember, that's only for Ohio and Kentucky. So that would be my suggestion there. Thank you, Michael, for that question. So is there the last 3 minutes of the presentation, do I have any other questions that I can answer for you here? Okay. So I got a question here, younger female, wife, age 55, who is still working. Husband is almost 10 years older than her and retired. So he was born in 1955. So will be 65 this year, but recently diagnosed with cancer. What are potential scenarios for the couple? 3 questions below. 1, if a husband begins taking benefits this year, early at 65, his benefit will be reduced, but at least he'll get some benefits before passing away. If he does take his reduced benefit, what will that impact on the widow benefit? So by taking it early, which, as you know, it's only a slight reduction, It's probably at about a 7% reduction because he was born in 1955 and his FRA is 66 and 2 months. What I would tell you is that it's not a huge reduction, but she will get that check that he files for. If he decides not to file and keeps going, then it's almost like Social Security sees that he was keep going, so then he would get that benefit. Number two, if he starts taking his benefit and does live, then how will that impact the spouse benefit? So she actually won't impact it, actually, because she gets 50% of the FRA. But I'm assuming with that difference in age there that they have, I'm thinking, and knowing the prognosis, and I'm not killing him off, but I'm assuming that she probably would get more of a widow benefit than she would get a spousal benefit. If she wants to take spousal benefit age 62, she could do that and let her own benefit grow until age 70. No, she cannot do that. She cannot take spousal benefits at 62 and grow until 70. The reason is that's called file and restrict. You can only do that if you were born on or before January 1, 1954. So if she wants to take spousal benefits at 62, she can take it, and she would get spousal benefits. That now, if she was a widow, and she can take her own benefit at 62, but she cannot. She can take widow benefits at 62 and then let her own grow until 70. How is the earnings limit calculated? How he is eligible for Social Security. So the earnings limit is calculated by taking the high 35 years of earnings for that consumer. So just by knowing a little bit of the situation, what I would probably do is he can either do one of two things. He can let his Social Security just cook, and that way it would let her widow benefit grow. So I actually had a gentleman who I met in not too far, but in Johnstown, who has brain cancer, and he went ahead and continued to work just to make the widow benefit bigger. So he can do that, or he can go ahead and file now and get the 65 benefit and get a couple of checks. I would also look into him if it is a cancer that's on the automatic disability benefit. He can go ahead and file for disability. So keep that in mind. If he wants to go ahead and file for disability, he might get the fast pass, is what I like to call it, in disability because of his situation. So you might want to also look into that. So wife is 7 years younger than spouse and higher income earner. If spouse claims at FRA, she's not 62, he gets his own benefit until she files, either early or FRA, correct? Yes, that is correct. When you have people that have that big age difference like that, I mean, you're gonna, the older one is just gonna file and gonna claim on FRA. And then if she's not 62 yet, then what she's going to do is wait until either her age of 62, collect spousal benefits, which she will get reduced, or she can wait until her FRA. So either one. But Jim, thank you for having me today. Hopefully, I hope y'all learned something, at least one thing. And I'm gonna kick it back to you.